Today I wanted to read a comment and do a video on this comment because I think it's a problem that a lot of the white belts and even blue belts sometimes have in jiu-jitsu with the amount of information that we have. But the question comes from Assaf, and he says, quote, this is to one of my half guard videos that I did recently, where he says, way too complicated. I get lost. Can you break it down to separate videos? One technique per video and slower. This is fundamentals. This is where I get lost. I'm sorry with I'm so bad with all these rules. Can you show each rule? And don't just say the rule, please and thank you. So, brother, thank you for the question. And the comment and the request, I guess not really a comment or a question, it's more of a request than a comment. But thank you for the comment. And I wanted to use this because I hear this from so many newer people in jiu-jitsu. They say they get it's complicating. There's just so much. All this stuff to learn. It can be overwhelming, right? And I wanted to sort of contrast this with the way that I started jiu-jitsu, because there's a way that I watch instructional videos, whether it be jiu-jitsu related or otherwise. There's a way that I go through information that I think might be useful to you because it's been useful to me. So the problem that you guys have today is that information is just, it's coming down you from everywhere. It's like coming at you from your coach, which is good, right? It's coming at you from the Instagram. It's coming at you from YouTube, the internet, Google, it's constantly coming at you. And it can be so overwhelming. And a lot of times it's like shiny object syndrome, because you might be working on something and then all of a sudden you see an Instagram video, you go, oh, that looks cool, let me try that. And then you get sidetracked. And really the benefit of jiu-jitsu is sticking with something for a while to really learn how to do it. When I started doing jiu-jitsu back in the day as a white belt, one of the things that I did do is after several months, I bought some mats for my basement. My roommate and I lived together. We both trained jiu-jitsu. We had mats. And then I went out and bought some instructional videos, one of which was like a 16-set instructional series that I got a lot of information from. And each position was broken down into 1 or 2 discs. And each disc had anywhere from 20 to 25 techniques. So a lot of stuff in those discs. So what I would do is, what we would do rather, because me and my buddy would do this, I would pop in the disc, and then we would watch. Here's a great example. When we were getting ready for a competition, we would both end up in side control, and then we would go for attacks and stuff like that. We were getting ready for the competition, so we were like, well, we always end up in side control. Let's look for some finishes from side control. So we'd pop in that side control disc, we would watch one technique. As soon as we found a technique that we thought might work, we would take that one technique and we would watch it several times, and then we would drill it and do that whole thing, and then we would be done with it, whatever. The next day we would come in, we would watch that same technique over and over and over again, and then drill it. And then if we felt like we were good with the technique, if it felt really easy and simple to do, we would add on to something that kind of went with that technique. So then we would add another technique. If we didn't feel good with it, we would continue to drill that one. And by the end of the week, we would have anywhere from 1 to 3 techniques, depending on how complicated those techniques were to us. And so, we were just drilling them over and over and over again. And I've continued to do the same thing. Like, I still watch instructional videos for, even now as a black belt, because I like seeing, when you get an instructional series from a guy, that typically means that it's someone that spent years on this position, and this is kind of like, one of their works. It's their work from that position. And I like to watch that because a lot of times you'll see these subtle adjustments and different details that they have to the same positions, and then I can try those out and see how they work for me. So it's very useful. And I still do this to this day. I'll watch the instructional video, and I'll see 10 to 15 minutes. That's about it. And then I'll write down a couple notes, and I'll go try the techniques. If the techniques begin to work for me, I'll then show them to my students. If they don't work for me, I'll play around with them a little bit more, and then if I can't really implement them, I might show them to someone, but I'll typically scrap them and move on to something else. But again, I'll find something else to stick to, and then I'll stick to that until I can get it working or move on. And this is where I wanted to kind of go with this for you guys. When you're going through all this instructional series, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's at your gym, whatever it is, whenever you have instructional information in your hands, you need to go on a diet for a little bit if you really want it to work. I mean, because in that video, I was talking about a grip break, fighting for an underhook, and I actually had one technique. The rest of them were just simple movements and simple ideas that I wanted to share with you guys. But the technique was getting out from under that flattened position. So what you could do then, Assaf, is say, okay, I'm getting flattened out from half guard. If that's the case, if that's why you watch the video, well then say, okay, let's start by just making sure nobody gets a hold of my collar or my head on that side, and just fight for that. So that's your only goal for that day, is do that. And then, okay, well, I'm blocking the head now, but now they're getting the underhook. So then, next day you come into the gym, let's fight for the underhook then. And you can work your way up from there, and then watch the video over and over again until you absorb all the information. And again, if it's not this video that you really need, maybe it's some other video. And for you guys watching, it might be the same thing. If there's a technique that you like, that you think's neat, that might work for your game, it falls into a problem or a situation you have, don't just watch it once. Don't just watch it like and then say, oh, it's too complicated, or I tried it once and it didn't work. Watch it like every day and then try it in your gym. You know, and this is the way that I do things. If I'm trying to implement something, because there's like a lot of business material that I bought for the gym to sort of implement over the years, I would watch this stuff every day and then try to implement it. And then with my jiu-jitsu instructionals and technique study, I do the same thing. I'll watch the same stuff over and over and over again until I actually implement it. Because again, otherwise, I'm just collecting information and I'm not really doing anything with it, which is useless. Jiu-jitsu, I think one of the things that it teaches you is to implement in execution, right? That's why we value the roles so much, right? Because there's the old school martial arts where, you know, they had all these different techniques, but then in execution against a live or against a person who maybe doesn't do the same martial art, they don't care. You know, it didn't work as well. Whereas, you know, with jiu-jitsu, we could see guys that were fighting. You had jiu-jitsu guys fighting people of all these different styles, and they were winning, right? And that's why, you know, a lot of sports like boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, or sambo, judo, these are really superior martial arts because they're training in that situation where it's about execution. It's not about theory. It's not about, ooh, this looks cool. It's about, can you use it under live situations? And so going back around to it, if you guys are going to take the time to watch the instructionals, don't just watch them once. Watch them again and again and again, and then try to execute them in your gym and keep going through that process until you either say, this move isn't for me, or I've implemented it. Bad my words today, and then move on to the next one. So, Assaf, thanks for the message here, brother. And guys, I hope this is helpful to you, and I'll talk to you next time.